When most people think wealth, they imagine a lucky break, they got into crypto at the right time, they had viral success, or they were born into it. But real wealth, it's way more boring. And it starts with simple decisions like saying no to work-life balance in your 20s, or realizing that saving money on groceries while wasting hours of your life is actually making you poorer. It's not about grinding harder, it's about stacking tiny advantages that compound. Because the truth is, most people aren't broke because they're lazy, they're broke because no one ever showed them how the game really works. This video is about flipping that. In this video, I'm gonna walk through the 7 habits that are silently sabotaging your money. They're keeping you poor. And I'm also gonna talk about the small shifts that can turn your next year into a financial breakthrough. Let's go. Habit number 1, chasing work-life balance. All right, I probably lost half the audience already, but I think that work-life balance is a myth, especially in your 20s. I heard this quote the other day: you can't burn out if you haven't caught fire yet. And I think so often, and I can make fun of millennials because I am one, there's this feeling of like, oh no, I just need to find my passion. I need work-life balance. I'm burnt out. You're not burnt out if you haven't caught fire. Your 20s is your time to get ahead, okay? So if you're early in your career and you're already burnt out, bad news, you don't have what it takes, or you're just focused on the wrong things, or you're listening to the wrong people who are telling you you need this kumbaya of work-life balance, of working 5 hours a day, or you deserve to work remotely. You deserve to only work 20 hours a week. If you got big goals, that's not on the menu. That's not how you get ahead. Your 20s are about discovering your passions. And you don't just wake up one day and figure out that you're passionate about something. You work at it, and in the work, you discover the passion, right? It's this chicken or the egg that most people think, oh, I'll find my passion, then I'll work hard. No, you gotta work your butt off to discover those passions, to develop those passions. And so chasing work-life balance is just really dumb. I think what you should do instead is look for work-life integration, okay? So there's a couple things here. First off, in your 20s, or if you're early in your career, you're just gonna work hard, okay? So 40, 50, 60, 70, 80-hour weeks should not be a deal breaker. If it is, go get a normal job like everyone else. Scale down your goals and ambitions. But what I find is that a lot of people, they want all-in results without giving all-in effort. Okay, so if you're not willing to do what it truly takes to be successful, then change your goals, right? Or change your habits and change your work ethic. Don't obsess over work-life balance. Don't obsess over working 20, 30 hours a week, especially in your 20s. Instead, look for work-life integration, which is how do I find ways in this Venn diagram of life to where I can work my butt off, but also integrate friends, fun times, etc. So for me, maybe that's a conference, maybe that's speaking at an event, maybe that's bringing people together for a mastermind while I'm developing friendships, while also developing my skill sets, while also developing my business. So that's the first habit that's keeping you poor. Number 2, spending everything you make. So there's this kind of trap that people fall into, which is, you go to college, you get into a ton of debt. And then you get out of college and you look around and you see people buying houses, getting a job, getting married. And so you feel like you got to keep up with the Joneses. Now, I recorded a whole other video on this, on delayed gratification. I think people search for instant success or instant validity or just instant anything. It's kind of the microwave mentality. It's keeping you poor, right? The things that you're doing today that are just like, hey, how do I quick cash grab that or spend money on this thing? You're never able to get ahead and you're never able to compound. And so what I recommend instead is the beans and rice mentality, okay? Early in your 20s, spend money on nothing. You don't need these things. You don't need nice stuff. You need to invest in your skill set. I'll talk about that later. And you also need to invest in getting ahead, right? So how do I make money moves, especially early on in my career, that compound, that create assets, that create cash flow, or create skill sets that will ultimately help me make a lot more money later. But if you're constantly spending everything you make, you can never do that. If the conference comes up that you really want to go to and you know that you can learn a lot, but you don't got the money to do it because you spend it on all this other dumb stuff, well then you can't go, right? So don't spend everything you make. Instead, squirrel away cash so that you can invest in assets and invest in yourself. And that brings me to number 3 here. This is a habit that most people ignore, and that's not investing in yourself. I know I've been there early on in my career. I'll never forget being in high school, and I wanted to get good at tennis. My friend said, well, hey, I'm trying to get good at tennis too, so I hired a coach. And I said, well, that's great, but you're rich. I can't do that. I don't spend money on stuff like that. And it was this poor mentality that I don't spend money on coaching. I don't spend money on stuff like that. That's for rich people. Well, guess what? The reason it's for rich people is because that's the whole reason they're rich. They spend money to get better. And so finally, he's like, hey man, it's $25 or whatever it was for an hour clinic. And so I kind of convinced my mom. I'm like, hey, can I do this tennis clinic? And I showed up and I got exponentially better than just practicing on my own. And I realized in that moment, I am shortcutting my success because I'm scared to invest in myself. You got to flip that on its head. If you really want to get ahead, you got to invest in yourself, invest in your knowledge, invest in your skill set. Now, my favorite things to invest in are books, conferences, and coaches. Okay, a book, I call this a $15 mentor. People are always searching for mentors, but the smartest, most successful people on the planet have written a book on the best things that they know. And for $15 and a handful of hours, we can learn from them. So buy and read books, but then also conferences. So I find the rooms where people are doing the things that I want to do. And I get in those rooms. Early on in my career, I just volunteered. I'd said, hey, I'll sweep the floors, I'll run the mics, whatever. I can't afford to go to this, but I know I want to be there. And if I'm there, I'll learn. So volunteer if you can't afford it, or pay for a ticket to be there. And then a coach or a mentor, you need one. So find someone who's done what you want to do, pay them for a shortcut. Invest in your skill set. Or again, if you can't afford that, see if someone will mentor you and help you get where you want to go, but don't learn from people who haven't been where you want to go. Now, the last piece I'll mention on this is you need to operate with what I call just-in-time learning. So a lot of people, they buy the book, they go to the conference, whatever, and then they put it on their shelf-esteem. Right, you've probably done that. Like, oh my gosh, this book sounds so great. You buy it, you get the dopamine hit, then you put it on your shelf-esteem. You feel good about yourself, but you never read it. Or worse off, you read it and you don't implement it. So my litmus test for any learning that I do, it's got to be just in time. So is it something that I'm going to implement or use within the next 30 days? If the answer to that question is no, don't do it. Right? We don't need a catalog of future learning. There's infinite knowledge everywhere. There's YouTube videos like this. There's AI. There's all the... So you can get the knowledge that you need when you need it. So there's no point in harvesting and storing all that knowledge ahead of time. Instead, operate with what I call just-in-time learning. Here's poor people habit number 4. This is spending your time on things you could pay other people to do for you. Now, again, I deeply feel this, and you are proud. I mean, maybe your blood is just slowly rising to a boil right now because I'm insulting you. I feel this. I'm a blue collar kid. I grew up in the middle of nowhere. My parents met working night shift at a factory. And so paying someone to clean our house, to make our meals, or to be your assistant, that was a crazy foreign concept. And I just remember thinking and my parents saying, like, we're not those people, right? We're not those people who hire people to do stuff for us. And so I had to really work through this and reframe my mindset, okay? So there's a couple things here. Number 1, you're providing jobs when you do this. But number 2, you're freeing up your time to raise the level of what you say yes to. In order to raise the level of what you say yes to, you have to raise the level first of the things that you say no to. Well, how do you say no to that stuff? You hire someone to do it. So what I want you to do is I want you to take the amount of money you've earned over the last year, and I want you to divide it by 2,080. And when you do that, you're gonna get your hourly rate. Now, for some of you, that's gonna be shockingly high. For some of you, maybe that's shockingly low. So we gotta raise that hourly rate either way. But so let's say it's $40 an hour. So then you gotta ask yourself this question: what am I doing in my day-to-day that I could pay someone less than $40 an hour to do for me? And then you create a list of all those things, and you need to hire someone to do that stuff. Because as my friend says, if you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant, right? And an hour is an hour, whether you're spending it on laundry or groceries or whether you're spending it in your inbox. It's the same hour. And guess what? You don't get it back. So you might feel weird like I did, having people do stuff in my personal life. It's like, man, that's super weird. But if you buy back that time, well, you can spend time on things that are higher leverage and that will grow your hourly rate and grow your wealth over time. Number 5, buying liabilities instead of assets. Okay, this is a silent wealth killer. And this kind of goes back to what I talked about earlier in the video. You feel like you need the car. You feel like you need the house. You need whatever it is. But I love this quote and this methodology from Robert Kiyosaki. He talks about liabilities versus assets and why most accountants are just plain wrong. Because they would say an asset is a car, it's a house, it's this thing that you own that's worth money. But he draws a line in the sand and says, liabilities take money from you on a monthly basis. Assets add money to your bank account on a monthly basis or yearly or whatever the time frame is. So that's the litmus test. So if I'm buying a car, that's a liability. That car is not making me any money. I either have a car payment or I've got a big lump sum of cash up front that I'm paying. It's a liability. It's a depreciating asset, but really it's a depreciating liability. Right? So not only is it not making me money, but it gets less valuable over time. What if instead of buying liabilities, you said, hey, where are their assets? Now, the biggest asset, I believe, is yourself. We already talked about this. And this is an asset. Your knowledge, your skills, your opportunities. So you got to invest in that. So then as you stack and start to get more successful, then you're able to start asking, hey, is there this real estate opportunity that can cash flow? Is there maybe a book that I write and publish that keeps bringing in royalty checks, keeps bringing in customers? How do I invest my time to build long-term assets that continue to pay me over decades, not days? Number 6, working without leverage. This is a big one. Many of you and many of us, you're running on a treadmill. You've got treadmill revenue, you've got a treadmill business, or you've got a treadmill job. And in that treadmill, there's no leverage. So Archimedes has the great quote. He says, if you give me a fulcrum and a lever long enough, I can move the world, right? That lever is your leverage. So what I want you to think about is leverage in a few specific instances. So leverage with your time, leverage with your skill sets, and leverage with your opportunities, okay? So how do I spend my time on higher leverage things? Perry Marshall talks about this in his book, 80-20 Sales and Marketing. You've got $10 an hour task, you've got $100 an hour task, you've got $1,000 an hour task, and you've got $10,000 an hour task. So how do you audit your time and say, more of that bucket needs to be in high leverage stuff, right? For me, it's creating videos like this. This is an asset and it's a super high leverage asset. It's a great way for me to spend my time. But then skill sets, how do I invest in higher leverage skill sets? So maybe you're working in customer support and you're really good with people, but you realize, hey, the average person in customer support makes $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year. I'm really good with people though. What if I started learning a sales skill set? And great salespeople make upwards of $70,000 a year, right? I've got some salespeople on my team that make $150,000 a year, $200,000 a year, $250,000 a year. That's because they have a really valuable skill set that makes me and the company a lot of money, right? So you level up your skill set. And then thirdly, level up your opportunities, okay? So that means maybe, you're working at a dead-end job and you need to get around people or get in a company where there's upward mobility so you can make more money, or where you can learn from someone who's been where you want to go. Maybe you can get in a company where you've got equity or you've got upside, you've got incentive comp, right? You got to find ways that you can get leverage in your time, your skill sets, and your opportunities. Because without leverage compounds. So if you're on that hamster wheel or you're on that treadmill, well, 5 years are gonna pass. And if there's no leverage, well, you just paid the bills and maybe banked a little bit of cash. But I want you to think instead, how do I lever up year after year and keep increasing the leverage in what I'm spending my time on? Number 7, this is the final one, and this is the dream killer. This is taking advice from people who haven't been where you want to go. All right, you probably got big dreams, you got big goals. You're gonna have people come out of the woodwork to tell you that it's not possible, to tell you that you shouldn't do that, to tell you that you're making a big mistake. And I love the Theodore Roosevelt quote. He says, it's not the critic who counts, it's the man in the arena. A lot of times it's well-intentioned people that your dream is bigger than their vision of what's possible, and so they try to discourage you. I'll never forget when I decided to drop out of school to pursue my dream. of growing, launching a business, I had people coming out of the woodwork calling me saying, Chandler, you're making a huge mistake. What are you doing? You've got scholarship money. You could finish your degree for 15 grand. I said, well, no, there's this opportunity cost. What if I spent those 2 years growing a business? I think it could be way greater than the 15 grand I'd be leaving on the table if I dropped these scholarships. And that's what happened. By the time my friends were graduating college, I was running a 7-figure business, right? And that's because I didn't listen to those people who said I couldn't do it. So they're all those people, I love them. Many of them are still in my life and they're super well-intentioned, but my vision for my life didn't match their vision for their life, which is totally cool. But if you let people speak into your life and tell you that you can't do that stuff, you're never gonna get started, or it's gonna take you off track, but you're following an uncommon path. Now, if you think about this, if you want uncommon results, why would you take the common path? Why would you take the path that everyone else does? Well, when you do that though, people either have a problem with it or they don't understand it. So I would encourage you, ignore the 3 Ds, okay? These are the doubters, the deadbeats, and the discouragers. Okay, so these are the people who say it's not possible. They're the people who have done nothing with their life, but they just constantly criticize other people, right, for no good reason. Or the discourager, right? These people are maybe a little bit bitter because maybe they tried it and didn't work out, so they're gonna discourage you in the process. Ignore them, take the path less traveled, and stop taking advice from people who haven't been where you wanna go. So those are the 7 habits that are keeping you poor. There's actually an 8th habit, and this is one that not a lot of people know about, and it's not being subscribed to this YouTube channel. All right, so if you're trying to get ahead, if you wanna grow in your life or grow in your business, subscribe to the channel right now. It's the ultimate cheat code. I'd love to hear your takeaways as well. What was your favorite of these 7? What's the one that you need to stop doing or that you need to double down on to build your wealth? Comment below. I read and respond to every single comment, and we're closing in on 25,000 subscribers on this channel. So every subscriber counts, so go subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.